Okay, this is an update on the ZZ502 project going into the El Camino. So where we're at here is on the engine stand. Obviously, if you watched some of the previous videos, I showed you with all the different stuff with the Mylodine oil pan and all the stuff you have to do to utilize that. Now we're just kind of mocking the engine up here with all the brackets. All of this will come off, including the water pump, to put it in the car. Just getting all the brackets set up. So this is an entire set of factory big block brackets, and what they are Chevelle brackets, which I believe are the same as your Monte Carlo, any of your A-body stuff. Big block, long water pump, not truck though, for these years. So here's one of the first issues you have, and this is the Edelbrock water pump, which is a nice hot water pump. You can see this is not going to work. It can't go into there because either the way a stock water pump works is it has this gap right there, and that bracket actually utilizes that gap. This doesn't, and yeah, you could probably machine that out, but I'm not going to risk doing that and busting this water port. So I'm going to machine this bracket. We're going to cut it out some right through here. So this is all the accommodation of aftermarket parts. This uses a long bolt for the alternator, which we have here. That's the wrong alternator. I've got another one that has the correct pulley and everything for it. And that's factory. So this actually crosses over on a basically, I believe 70 to 77 small block and big block for your A body. So this part is actually the same. This isn't. This is longer, and this isn't. So you have to buy those two brackets there. Pulley setup for this motor is air conditioned pulley set for your big block Chevelles, Monte Carlos, El Caminos, and that's on the big 8-inch balancer there. So we got the lower pulley on this, obviously air conditioned, and this is your power steering bracket set up here, which that comes in like that and adjust. So we're going to put a brand new Saginaw pump on it. Basically what I've got all the stuff for the car. It's all this engine over here. This is the original low mileage motor we pulled out of this car, but I'm keeping it all together like this. So I'm not going to rob any, like we could rob all these parts and work on there, but I'm not going to do that. I did rob the hooks. We're going to use those, and the transmission shift cable and throttle cable bracket there. And obviously the hooks actually between a big block and small block are different, but you can bend the hooks a little wider to go in the big block, and nobody'd ever notice. They're virtually the same at that point, but it takes a little doing. So we bent those. Obviously we're not going to leave them blue. We're going to clean them all up, paint them black. It's just sitting there for now. So that's kind of it with the water pump. So I think once we grind that up here, once I get the other, because that's off of a truck, and so it's got a different pulley and everything. But once I get there, I'm going to grind that with everything bolted on. And same with the pump here. I don't see any interference issues here at all with the power steering pump, so that should go straight on. And this is the big bracket. So we bought all these, factory brackets, which are expensive. And this is for the A6 compressor. We're going to run that, and this goes something like this. And this is where you have to basically decide, okay, are you going to run a tall valve cover so you can put your 1.7 rollers on here, or are you going to run the 1.7 stamped and keep the low valve cover? So this bracket will work and keep your compressor from doing that all day long. So that's a decision you have to make. And on this thing, since this is far from a race car, it is just a modest performance vehicle, we're going to run these. And I'm questioning even to keep the 502 valve covers, although I do like them. To me, it's kind of akin to running 4-bolt small block, 4 center bolt down valve covers on like a old classic car. So I think I may actually use the low profile chrome Chevelle valve covers on this, even though I'm going to keep the motor still looking black. with the bare aluminum because I want it to be identified as a 502. I don't want to hide it, and I don't want to because 502s are not cheap, and so it's not. This is not an engine builder's engine. This is a GM ZZ 502 motor, and so I want that to be known, but still want it to look pretty much somewhat like it came. Okay, so the next one's obviously these. There's the Sanderson BB3 big block headers with these are 1 7/8 primaries, big ones, and so these are nice headers. I mean, Sanderson makes some high quality products, and so far so good. Other than the fact, obviously, when they built these, they mocked their stuff up with a Mark IV engine, I'm sure, not a 5 or 6, and this is a 6 Mark 6. So here we have, if you look down in here, where these secondary motor mounts for different applications that they had on these motors go, those headers are hitting that right there, bang. So you either grind your block up or you ping your header out. So more than likely we're gonna ping our header out on that. And then the other thing is using this, you know, hot rod oil pan with hot rod headers, those two don't quite marry each other. So we're gonna have one heck of a bend down to that right there. And that's all gonna have to be looked at once it's all in the car and together. Just one thing after another, nothing easy. Aftermarket, even with a ZZ 502. The other question we have too is, where do we run the oil sending unit? And on the small block, you know, it's back here on these. So the big block is way back here, which makes it even harder to access. And you could run it down here. I'm not sure the wire is going to reach, and I'm not sure that's going to be the best location to even have this. You have this big port here, and then you have the small one, which I don't know. I'm gonna do some research on that. We can always extend the wire. I'm thinking about just putting a tube in here and extending the sending unit up to this area here. So I don't know what's going to interfere or not yet. That's all yet to be determined. Nothing easy. Then we have, you know, this is your accelerator linkage. It's a bracket here. So I'm to bend this. You can see the difference in the width on the small block and big block bracket there, where they can't quite line up. Close, but they won't line up. But you can bend these out just a little bit. This one's not very thick, so it can be done pretty easy. And use that. Obviously your power or vacuum line for your power brakes goes through this here, and I'm gonna keep that intact. And here's the other hook for the back, which that'll go right in because it's only got one hole, not two. So I'm gonna utilize that. Then on the other side, on the passenger side, the Sanderson header has a similar issue. Not quite as pronounced or big as the driver's side, but you can see it hits right here. And that's a part that's not on your Mark IVs per se right there. So we're gonna have to probably ping the header just a little bit to do that. And so two negatives and very expensive headers, but you know, aftermarket is aftermarket. Nothing ever works right. But I can tell you what, I will give them one hell of a nice compliment. And look what they did on because everybody has these issues right here with these motors, is you cannot put a regular header flange on these because they hit the head bolts, and you have to not use the ARP studs. So you'll have to go down to a smaller, lower head bolt, and a lot of people change those, but Sanderson eliminated that issue. They put these big, thick flanges, and they recessed them for all of these bolts. You see that one really right there is really nice. So compliments to them there. We'll see how that goes. I went with shorties because one, it's not a race car. Two, it's, you know, a whole trying to get as much integrity out of this thing we can without just baking the world. And three, these are high quality, you know, like they're big buck headers. So we got and so people have paid far less for an entire engine than the set of these headers. So that's kind of where we're at there. I don't have the engine mounts. I'm actually having those powder coated. These are the clamshells, and I do anticipate that they're going to hit that probably right here. And so more than likely I'm going to grind the motor mount up a little bit to accommodate here. More than likely the same on the other side too, because you can run the older style motor mounts on these cars and they're not as strong. But I'm going to try and run the clamshells on this motor, so we'll see how that goes. I'll get those back from being powder coated soon. So everything here is just mocked up. I don't even have the right bolts. I've got the correct bolts coming for everything. Some of these are correct here. And then on the fan, we're going to run the 7-blade off of the El Camino on the big clutch, like that one there. So it'll have the big clutch. And against my total better judgment, I'm going to start this motor off with a factory fuel pump and an LS6 pre-made line up to the Holly. And I don't like doing that. I'd rather run an electric system on this. But on this particular car, this year, a lot of these do not have return lines to the tank. So it's a single line from the tank to the fuel pump, which, your factory one over here, even though they look the same, there's a big block and small block, short pump. And so we've got the big block pump coming for the 502. And I've got the LS6 line that's going to supposedly go to the Holly. We'll see how close that gets. And I'm going to run that for the time being. More than likely, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that tank out of that car, try and find another one of these. I think this is a 26 or 27 gallon optional tank in this car. See if I can find one in stainless steel, which I don't think they make it. They make a smaller one, but I don't want to do that. And then go to a whole new pickup and go to a stainless steel line. So all this to accommodate, reinvent the wheel for something that should be straight up, but it's not. Now, one of the other things that does look like it's possible is I think you can run the big starter on this, which, everybody, the mini starters are wonderful until they don't work, but the big starter I think will go on this because these headers have a lot of clearance here. So we'll see. I actually think this the passenger side clamshell motor mount will not interfere with the headers. It's going to be the driver for sure, if any at all. But I can tell you right now, those things are big. They come way out to here. So I can grind some of that out. I got to plug this up. This is a repurposed motor. This is not a brand new ZZ502 because we could not get one. This was in a big square body 1-ton. It was just used for a short time until decided to go with something a little more tame, not such a choppy popper. And I just went back with they went with a 454, and I bought this motor from them, so running. So we've seen it run. So we got to plug that up, which is, I had it plugged up just to do some testing because we've been spinning it over on the engine stand, just making sure everything clears. And obviously all the plugs are out now. What else? So that's a ZZ502 with going together. And of course I've been making videos of this all along the way. And I am going to use these, which are nice, which go here. That's one of the better plug configurations that I've seen on a big block, and GM did it. So not all the stuff laying across the valve covers or burning up under the headers or all of that other stuff. So we'll see how that works out. And like I said, I don't know if I'm going to use the valve covers for the 502 or not. They're very expensive and very desired, but like I said, I kind of wanted a more of an aero look in this car than just a crate motor look, even though this crate motor is a desired motor. What else am I at there? Of course, there's no carburetor on it. It's over there on the bench, and that was the running carburetor off the truck there, which is the one that came with it. There's 870 Holly. I'm gonna take the bowls off of it, clean it up, change accelerator pumps out on it because I'm sure they're getting weak. And so they had a much better setup than me. They had a full electric system on that truck and a regulator. no return though on it, which is unusual. So I don't know how they did that. It doesn't even have a return on it. So I won't be able to use that, which is sad for now anyway. So we'll get that cleaned up. And so that's it. So basically with everything on these, once all this brackets are modified, everything's together here, we're gonna have, obviously this is coolant factory here, hose there. This goes to your heater core, which I'll put the bung on that for that. And this goes to your heater core also, which I'm going to run the heater control valve on it. So we can shut the heater core off when the air conditioning's on max, instead of just double heating the car, which most people always miss that. Or you can run a remote one. You can take a line and bring it over this way and put one over here, you know, on the firewall or something, if you wanted to do it that way. Because I think the early Chevelles had it that way. This year has this, and this interchanges big block, small block, a little bit shorter for the big block, but heater control valve there. So it gets vacuum and it pulls and it shuts off your water flow to your heater core. So I'm using the same water neck here on this 502, but the earlier one without the vacuum switch on it. So I'm gonna have one of these, a 160 thermostat in it. What else can I show you? That's kind of it. So it's coming along. The next process is we're gonna start getting all this stuff together, doing the mods. I'm not gonna mod the headers yet until we have the engine mount back, so we can know exactly what to do there. Then I'm not gonna do anything else up here until I get the new Saginaw pump in there. Like I said, I don't wanna rob my other complete motor, even though we could steal all those parts off of it. I just don't wanna do that to it because it's so nice and low mile. And then I'm going to use a, I think it's the big name, I forget, alternator, which has the correct pulley and everything on it. It's a pretty expensive one, but it's instead of I think this car is a 70 amp or something like that, this will be 110, but it'll be the same casing and everything. So that'll be an improvement. And then the fuel pump rod, which is not in there yet, it will be coming, so I'll have to put that in the motor, and that's the GM one. I can pull that out there to do that. So that's that for now. Dipstick, that's gonna be a good question. I haven't even tried that yet. Let's try that on the video. This is your Milodon dipstick, which I already marked in your, I put, it's a 6-quart pan, so we put 5 in it, and I marked it at 5. That's the low point. And we're gonna drain this oil out of this anyway. Let's see how this goes here. It goes there, there. Hey, that's really not a bad deal. I'm impressed. So that's gonna work out well. So there's the bolt right there, down in there. I'll have to put some sealant down in there. And it's not laying on the headers anywhere. It's not hitting the headers anyway. Wow, very, very impressed between the two companies. So Milodon did that right, and Sanderson did that right too. And Sanderson even put a cutout for if you ran a temperature sensor on this side. We have one on the other. So they put the cutout for that. Right here, which this is our coolant gauge sensor there for the El Camino. So. And this is kind of a trick because you can't actually use a socket on it. You can't fit it in there. You actually have to turn it with an open end wrench from this side over here to get it in there. So on these headers, the Sandersons, or their claim to fame is use no gaskets, and so you put some high temp RTV on them, let it dry for a little while, and then torque them down. And they did give us the bolts for those, which are over here, somewhere in here, but yeah. We kind of threw all this together this afternoon, and while it's fresh in my head, I'm doing this, but hadn't cleaned up yet. So that's that. Thanks for watching.